Friends, we're here with Dr. Laura Murillo at the offices of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce doing an exclusive story for Onda magazine. Dr. Murillo, welcome.
Thank you so much, and congratulations to you, Gabriel, the entire team on 30 years. That is quite an accomplishment.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We are the last news magazine that covers the Latino community in Houston, and probably in Texas because we're in other cities.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. So let's get started. Tell us, what makes the $54 billion purchasing power of Hispanics in Houston particularly significant in your view?
Certainly, when we look at the economy and the role that Latinos play in Houston, that is a very significant number. $54 billion is nothing to sneeze at. In fact, the corporations, the businesses, employers, and others clearly should understand that the Latino market is one that cannot be ignored, nor should it be, because we are consumers, and yearly we are consuming over $54 billion per year. Unfortunately, we still have not made all of the strides that we need to make, and that is why the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce most recently held a data summit at the Federal Reserve in partnership with the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs with data, demographics, consumer spending, voting patterns, etc. We need to show the data so that people can see us in a different light and they can appreciate the contributions that Latinos make in Houston and in this country.
Since I had a chance to look at some of the data points, what stood out for you? What was the biggest surprise, or what stood out for you?
I don't think much of it was a surprise. It's more of validation of the data. One point that stood out clearly is the fact that we represent over 46% of the demographic. We represent approximately 26% in Houston of the workforce. And in addition, that we are 10 years younger than our Anglo counterparts. So we are young. 70% of Latinos in Houston are between the ages of 18 and 44. 70%.
That's amazing.
When you look at the Anglo population in this city, Anglos, 70% of them are 60 or older.
Wow.
So that's why when you combine our spending power, our youth, and the fact that we are now many first, second generations becoming professionals, graduating from college, learning English, voting, all of those things is an upward trajectory for our community.
I know that you were a big follower of Dr. Kleinberg.
Yes.
And I want to reference a quote that he said. He said that if you close the borders today, by the year 2040, Latinos will be the majority in the U.S.
Yes.
And I think that number is a little outdated.
It is.
Because we're growing significantly. Just yesterday in the New York Times was a story about how every day 10,000 Anglos are passing away, and there's not enough children being born to be able to sustain that demographic.
Very true. And when you look at Houston compared to Chicago, other cities and states throughout the country, that the Latino demographic continues to be going on an upward trajectory. Again, because we are young.
Yes.
And we have more children. Also, we have a tendency of being multi-generational even in our own households, where we may have an aunt, a grandmother, the family, and extended generations in one household. That is also very unique to Latinos.
Could you shed light on the strategies and initiatives employed by the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to champion and expand contracts for minority businesses, particularly within key entities like the Port of Houston, Metro, Texas DOT, NASA, the airport, and the medical center?
Great question. So we have provided testimony everywhere from the county to the city of Houston. We participate on committees, for example, at the Port of Houston, where we have been part of the building of what, in many cases, is the first time that the county has had the opportunity to have these conversations, where surveys and studies, disparity studies, were conducted to show us what we already knew, which was that we need to do better, and that every one of these entities that you just mentioned need to have a hard look at what they're doing, how we can improve it, how we can get the RFPs out to others. And so not only have we been part of the conversations to getting those started, but in addition to that, we've partnered with others that are out there helping people become certified, connecting them, writing letters of recommendation for them, picking up the phone and helping them connect with the right people. But also very important in that conversation is that there are some businesses that perhaps think they can do business there, but there is not a need for them. And so we also help them move to other areas where there is that need. So we try to streamline those processes. We try to connect them. We've held webinars, for example. You mentioned Evelyn, who's a great member of this Chamber of Commerce. She's been on webinars with us where we'll have Chevron or Shell, or you name the entity, and we ask the questions. What is the process? What do people like Evelyn need to know? What do they need to do? How can we help them? How can we follow up? Who do we need to write the letter to? Who do we need to send the email to? Again, doing everything we can to connect the dots and opening doors for more. Recently, we had folks here from the city, the county, the port, at our events, at our orientations. They have expos, and always trying to find ways to once again help. I'm on the group that brought the World Cup, the bid committee. We've had interviews with individuals that are saying, here's how you become part of the Buy Houston for not only the World Cup, but many sporting entities that are coming to our city. So we try to use our television, radio programs, webinars, and anything that we can to get the word out.
You do have an extensive media footprint.
Yes.
Tell us, where all are you currently disseminating news about what the Chamber can do for the corporate entities as well as for the community?
So my degree, as you can see on the wall here, one of them is in journalism.
Yes.
So I thought I would be Barbara Walters one day, and I never became Barbara Walters, but I did do my best to capitalize on media. As you know, it's a big microphone. Having come to the Chamber of Commerce, I realized very quickly that one of the things that we needed to do was to have a presence in that space. I went to CBS at the time and pitched it to many, and they said no. And ultimately, they eventually said yes. And so I've been on the air, if you can believe it, for next year will be 15 years.
Wow.
On the air on CBS. And then soon after, I went and was able to secure an arrangement with CBS Radio, which is now Odyssey. So we're on 6 radio stations, everything from sports to 96.5 to The Spot. In addition to that, CBS Television on KHOU 11, CBS Radio, Odyssey, Univision Television, Univision Radio, and of course on all social media. I also personally have a podcast where I've promoted my book and different things on leadership, etc. It's a very full schedule, as you might imagine, but very important. We need to tell our stories like you're doing, like Onda magazine does, telling positive, good stories that are inspirational, that tell the trajectory of the Esparza family and how it, through the generations, has continued to evolve. If we don't tell those stories, who will?
No one will. And you are, I might say, one of the newsmakers for Onda magazine. We cover a lot of the news that you're making in the community.
Thank you.
So tell us, how has the Chamber actively advocated for intangibly advanced opportunities for women in the business landscape?
A variety of ways. We've held the largest women's conference in this city for many years. Additionally, we had put together an emerging leaders program, which is males and females, young professionals that have come from a variety of different spaces. In addition, we work very closely with recruiters and executives and others to provide guidance, direction to women. I serve as the first person in Houston, not Hispanic, but the first person in Houston to serve on the Washington, D.C. Federal Reserve Board that reports to Chairman Powell and the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors are appointed by the President and approved by Congress. This is the first time that Houston has a representative to talk about needs of this region of the South. There are only 13 of us from throughout the country, and for the first time, Houston has someone. And an example specific to your question, during the pandemic, we were provided an agenda of items that we were discussing, which included all of the PPP, EIDL funding, and I didn't see childcare on there. There was nothing about women, even though we know that women during the pandemic were the ones who suffered the greatest. They had to leave their jobs to take care of their immediate family and extended family, childcare, daycare, schools. It was not on the agenda, so I brought it up. I said, is it only Houston that is dealing with limited child care facilities and having schools open and close, and the wife and the mother has to go and care for the children? The answer at the end of the day was, that's a good point. And so it was added to the agenda, which then went up to Congress, which then led to providing some stimulus funding for women, for daycares, etc. So every day we advocate for Hispanics, for business, for women, for justice, if you will, and we advocate at a local, state, national, and even international level.
And that is why Hispanics need to be at the table.
Yes, and we're still, unfortunately, making our way there. Despite the data that we mentioned, we still nationally and locally represent less than 2% of Latinos who serve on compensated corporate boards, not nonprofits.
Right.
I'm talking about the big corporations locally and nationally. So there's a lot more work to be done there.
What is your perspective on the current state of education for Hispanics in Houston?
We're seeing an uptick. We're seeing women more enrolled in college, more women graduating, more Latinas going on to get graduate degrees. We're losing some pace with male Latinos. Clearly, that is the key to everything that we've talked about. So we need to do better. And that's at all levels, whether it's going to a training course, getting a certification, getting doctorate degrees, etc. There's a lot of opportunities for Latinos to jump into that space.
And to further the conversation, could you share some insights in the Chamber's efforts aimed at enhancing public representation in local policy-making spheres?
Yes. So we work very closely with our local entities, state, national, etc. As a matter of fact, just last year we hired Cornerstone, and they are a huge lobbying public policy governance group housed in Houston and Washington and Austin, Texas, to better cover bills, legislation, public policy, so that we can do more. We have partnered with Vincent and Elkins as an example years ago as the conversation seemed like it was going somewhere toward comprehensive immigration reform, and they provided us with close to $1 million of pro bono legal services. One organization cannot do it all. It takes a big group, lots of us doing all types of work. Certainly, money makes a difference, especially in public policy. So for us to partner with those that we have partnered with, whether it's for business, whether it's during the pandemic, whether it's working with CEOs of banks to make sure Latinos had access to PPP and EIDL funding, we do it every day.
Since assuming the role of president and CEO of the Chamber, what are the top 5 accomplishments you're most proud of?
Chief among them is changing the perception of Latinos in this city, in the state, and nationally, so that they see us as contributors, individuals who are in fact educated, who are entrepreneurs, and being able to help people. The other is our diversity. When you come to a chamber event, it's everything from the CEO to a young person who's just getting started. Thirdly, is a team that we've formed, whether it's our board of directors or people who have worked at this chamber who go on to do phenomenal, extraordinary things. Helping small business and corporations reach their goals, whatever they may be. And the establishment not only of this media platform that I serve as founding executive producer and host, but also founding president and CEO of our foundation. And that opened the opportunity to establish the Emerging Leaders Institute, young professionals, Hispanic or not, over 350 strong, so that we can build that next generation.
And furthermore, what legacy do you aspire to leave, and how are you preparing the next generation of Hispanic leaders in the chamber?
The legacy is that hard work, people, passion, and persistence, as is the title of my subtitle of my book, Lead in Life, truly have allowed me to serve over the last 15 years as president and CEO. It's been the people, it's been persistence, and it's been passion. I have not done anything by myself.
You are making news with your book. What is the latest news?
Well, the latest news is that it is #1 in the U.S., Australia, Canada. But the bigger news for all of us as women, as Latinos, is that this book that I wrote during the pandemic and my off time while everyone was trying to figure out when we were going to get back to normal, is that the book outperformed it's #1 in biographies and memoirs, and it outperformed the book by the CEO of PepsiCo. It outperformed Elon Musk, and it outperformed Anderson Cooper's book about his mother, Gloria Vanderbilt. And this is from someone who's the daughter of immigrant parents, who was born in Houston's East End, Magnolia, who began working at age 10 at our family's restaurant, who stayed in Houston, went to the University of Houston, earned a bachelor's and doctorate degree, and decided to write a story about us, for us, but also for non-Hispanics, for CEOs to understand that partnering with Latinos is the right choice, and hopefully to inspire that next generation of leaders, because we all need to see ourselves in someone else. And I saw Dr. Tacho Mendiola at the University of Houston. I saw entrepreneur Olga Solis. I saw my dear beloved Dr. Dorothy Caram, and so many other leaders who every day were advocating for Latinos. And I hope that one day I too could advocate on behalf of our community. And I've dedicated my life to it. It has been a blessing, and I do it for our community so that we can continue to open doors for our children and other generations.
Any final words for our audience, Dr. Murillo?
Well, once again, my thanks to Onda Magazine for the opportunity to visit with you all. And my advice, my final words are that you just continue to make us proud, whatever you are doing, whatever stage in life that you are in, that you do the best that you can do, that you represent your family, your community, and continue to thrive and strive for excellence. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you. There you have it, friends. Dr. Laura Murillo for Onda Magazine.